This is our second video about Latin verbs. In this video, we'll review the perfect system and the active voice and the indicative mood. Remember that Latin has 6 tenses. We organize these tenses into 2 systems, the present system and the perfect system. The present system consists of the present, imperfect, and future tenses. The perfect system consists of the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect tenses. In this video, we're talking about the perfect system. Remember, the perfect system consists of 3 tenses. This is really important. We have the perfect, whose full name is really the present perfect, but we usually just call it the perfect. The pluperfect is the second tense. The pluperfect will occasionally be called the past perfect. And then the third tense is the future perfect, which only has one name. All 3 tenses of the perfect system are built on the perfect stem. To find the perfect stem of any verb, go to the third principal part and take off the long I. Notice I said any verb. It doesn't matter which conjugation your verb comes from. Paro comes from the first conjugation. Video comes from the second conjugation. I could have picked a third conjugation, a third IO, a fourth conjugation. It doesn't matter. When we're in the perfect system, we find the stem by going to the third principal part of any verb and taking off the long I. For example, the verb video, I see. The principal parts are video, videre, vidi, visis. Note that the stem vowel, that I, vid, it's short in the first 2 principal parts, but then it becomes a long I in the third and the fourth principal parts, vidi and visis. This lengthening of the stem vowel in the third and fourth principal parts is a really common pattern. You're going to see that over and over and over. So the third principal part is vidi. If we remove the long I, we're left with weed, which is the perfect stem. Remember, the perfect system consists of 3 tenses: the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect. To form the perfect tense of any verb, remember any verb at all, first find the perfect stem by going to the third principal part and taking off the long I. So for the verb video, videre, vidi, visis, the third principal part is weedy. If we remove the long I, we're left with weed, which is our perfect stem. To form the perfect tense, add the perfect tense personal endings to the perfect stem. The perfect tense personal endings are I, isti, it, imus, istis, erunt. Note the macrons. We have a macron on the I of the first person singular, the I of the second person singular, and the E of the third person plural. Conjugate video aloud with me in the perfect tense. Weedy, weedisti, weedit, weedimus, weedistis, weederunt. There are 3 ways to translate the perfect tense. First is the simple past. I blanked, you blanked, he, she, it blanked, we blanked, y'all blanked, they blanked. Now, of course, some English verbs can't take that ed ending. Instead, they have a change, and it's usually a lengthening of the stem vowel. We see that same lengthening of the stem vowel in Latin, right? We do it in English too. We call these verbs strong verbs. You don't really have to think about it too much because as a proficient English speaker, it would just sound wrong to you to put an ed on the stem of a strong verb. You would never say I swimmed or I singed. You would just naturally know to say I swam and I sang. So then the simple past is formed with either an ed suffix or with a change in the stem vowel, and sometimes a change in the word. The simple past translation of weedy is not I seed, right, but I saw. Now, the second way to translate the Latin perfect is with the English perfect. The key to the English perfect is to use the helping verb have, or for the third person singular, he, she, it, the helping verb is has. So the helping verbs for the English perfect tense are have and has. I have blanked, you have blanked, he, she, it has blanked, we have blanked, y'all have blanked, they have blanked. And once again, strong verbs will use different forms instead of that ed ending, but you'll just know these as an English speaker. So the English perfect tense translation of weedy is not I have seed, but I have seen. The third way to translate the Latin perfect tense is with the English emphatic past. Here, the helping verb is did. I did see. And this works, the helping verb did works for any person and number combination. So I did blank, you did blank, he, she, it did blank, we did blank, y'all did blank, they did blank. Just like with the emphatic present, the emphatic past is sometimes used for emphasis, right? I did see. But it's always used to create negative statements, such as I did not see. The emphatic past translation of we did, for example, he, she, it did see. But if you were going to translate the phrase known weed it, you would have to stick the English not in between the helping verb and the verb complement of the emphatic past. So weed it, he, she, it did see. Known weed it, he, she, it did not see. In all, there are 3 English helping verbs that you can use to translate the Latin perfect: have, has, and did. Now remember, there are 6 tenses in all, split into 2 systems. The perfect system consists of 3 tenses: the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect. To form the pluperfect tense of any verb, go to the third principal part and take off the long I. For the verb habeo, I have, the principal parts are habeo, habere, habui, habitus. The third principal part is habui. If we remove the long I, we're left with habu, which is the perfect stem. The pluperfect tense personal endings look exactly like the imperfect forms of the to be verb: eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. Notice that this A here is a long A, but these endings have to follow our macron rule. If a word ends in an im or a t, the last syllable cannot be long. Eram, erat, and erant all end in an im or a t, so that A is shortened so that the last syllable will not be long. Here's how these endings look on a perfect stem. Here, habu. Now conjugate habeo in the pluperfect tense out loud with me. Habueram, habueras, habuerat. Habueramus, habueratis, habuerant. As you can see, there is only one way to translate the pluperfect tense, and this is with the English pluperfect. Our helping verb for every person and number will be had. I had blanked, you had blanked, he, she, it had blanked. We had blanked, y'all had blanked, they had blanked. Now, the English translation of habuerant is they had had, right? That's a little confusing when we're using the verb to have. All right, to review, we want to be really careful with our helping verbs in the perfect system. So the helping verbs that we could use in the perfect tense were have, has, and did. The one and only helping verb that we can use in the pluperfect tense is had. All right, answer this question out loud. How many helping verbs can we use to translate the Latin perfect tense? Did you get it? 3, right? Next question, of course, what are they? Have, has, and did. How many helping verbs can we use to translate the Latin pluperfect tense? Just 1, right? And what is that helping verb for the pluperfect? Had. All right, we have one more tense to go. The third tense of the perfect system is the future perfect tense. Remember, the perfect system had 3 tenses, the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect. To form the future perfect, we're in the perfect system, right? So we need the perfect stem. And we find the perfect stem of any Latin verb, even those irregular verbs. There are only a few, but they exist. Even for irregular verbs, this works. When you're in the perfect system, you find the perfect stem by going to the third principal part and taking off the long I. For the verb laudo, I praise, the principal parts are laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus. The third principal part is laudavi. If we remove the long I, we're left with laudau, which is the perfect stem. Now, the future perfect tense personal endings are almost like the future tense forms of the to be verb, but be careful to note the difference. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erint. Our third plural form is erint. Now, your future tense of the to be verb is ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt. But that's not what we have here. Here we have I's all the way down. All right, now let's put these future perfect tense personal endings onto our perfect stem from the verb laudo. And let's conjugate it aloud together in the future perfect tense. Laudavero, laudaveris, laudaverit, laudaverimus, laudaveritis, laudaverint. You only have one option for translating the Latin future perfect tense into English. You just use the English future perfect tense. Now, the English future perfect tense requires 2 helping verbs, will and have. So you have 2 helping verbs for the future perfect tense, but you have to use them together. So it's really just one helping verb pair, right? I will have blanked. You will have blanked. He, she, it will have blanked. We will have blanked. Y'all will have blanked. They will have blanked. Laudaveritis is y'all will have praised. All right, so to review, how many helping verbs can we use to translate the Latin perfect tense? And I want you to answer this out loud, even though you're watching a video. How many helping verbs? 3. All right, tell me what those helping verbs are. Have, has, and did. How many helping verbs can we use to translate the Latin pluperfect? Did you get it? It's just one, right? Just one helping verb. What is that helping verb? Had, right? I had blanked. That's the pluperfect. All right, last question. Well, second to last question. How many helping verbs do we use to translate the Latin future perfect tense? This is kind of a trick question. The answer is 2, but they're joined together as a pair. So it's one option, but it's a helping verb pair. What is that helping verb pair? Will have.